I guess it's a perfect time for me to explain my journey in endometriosis. I started experiencing symptoms when I was a teenager, and I had migraines and horrible painful periods and horrible digestion issues. I had a typical pooch or stomach fat at the young age of 10 that I still have. By the time I was 15, I could not handle my cycles, and my mom thought that we should get some help. So we went to the OB, and I tried every single pill from the age of 16 to 19. And at 19, I decided to get the Liletta IUD. And this was the same problem, just took away my cycles. I was still having the digestive issues. I was still suffering with pain and migraines. When I was 22, I decided to take out the IUD. And 1 month later, I was in a situation that landed me in pregnancy. And here I am 7 years later. Before my pregnancy, I continued to complain about this pain. And every single time it was met with, it's just IBS. It can't possibly be anything else. And then after I had a child, which they left the placenta inside of an emergency C-section for 6 weeks, and I got many infections. When I finally felt comfortable going back to an OB, this was in May of 2021, after I had no birth control from February of 2022 that time, and I stuck with that. But then the following month, I had a pregnancy that resulted in loss very early, and they told me that I should not question or worry this because I had a healthy child. It then took another 11 months to get pregnant with my daughter, who will turn 2 this weekend. And this time I went straight for a C-section. I wasn't willing to even give my body the chance to try labor. So we went straight for C-section, and less than 24 hours after the C-section, I jumped up at 3 in the morning in the most excruciating pain I've ever felt in my entire life. And what I know now is that was a endometrioma that burst, and they labeled it an infected hematoma. So 4 days after my second and last birth, I was readmitted for this infected hematoma. After I was discharged, I was sent home with heavy antibiotics for 3 weeks, and as I neared those 3 weeks, then the same thing happened, and my incisions rejected on the outside, as well when they did the first time with my son, except the difference was I had staples with him in 2018, and in 2023 I had the dissolvable stitches, and those too rejected. I did not get the opportunity to breastfeed with my son, not even a drop. But with my daughter, I did. I got about 3 ounces a day, and I did this for 5.5 months, and I chose to stop for my mental health in August of 2023. When I got my period, let me tell you, that was like having the worst flu of my life. I was so sick. And then the next day, I got my cycle back. And from that day forward until December of 2023, I begged and I pleaded for help. And of course, I was handed birth control, and I actually, after over 3 years, I stooped to that level, and I gave the progesterone only a pill a try, and it made the pain and the suffering so much worse. And then after my imaging came back normal, I then was sent to what you would call a specialist of endometriosis, and I had to wait 5 months for that appointment, and that was in May of 2024, where he answered all of my questions and even exceeded beyond my. He was the first doctor to ever take me seriously, validate everything I've ever been through, and said that he took one look at my imaging and knew that it wasn't normal. He actually took me very seriously and got me in 1 month later for my laparoscopy, where I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis and adenomyosis. Sorry, I can never pronounce it the correct way when I'm trying to say it. My bladder was also adhered to my uterus, so that was also taken care of. Except at the time, I thought that I read my report over and over again that he was excising the endometriosis, but he was actually burning it. But then I allowed the pain and suffering, and also the fact that I was not even a year and a half postpartum, hormones, to cloud my judgment, and I scheduled a hysterectomy for September 11th of 2024. I really thought that this doctor had the multidisciplinary team behind him, because I asked him about endometriosis of the bowels and bladder. And it wasn't until after my surgery he told me he was going to send me to regular GI and urology for this. That is when the next month and all the way up to here, I have slowly worsened, and it has been the most painful thing to physically be in, but also mentally watch, because not only does being in pain daily really take away from your personality, it also is super hard to function like that. And I'm sure many of you know that, and it sucks. That led me to here, and I finally will be seen by a real actual specialist next week Thursday. And of course, my MRI came back with no problems at all. Everything is great, except that my ovaries are now covered in little cysts, both of them. So